Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
This is an unusual episode of Cut the Clutter and in an unusual location. It's not inside my house, not inside my home, but it's not far. It's in my neighborhood. So a 5-minute walking distance from my home is this place that you can see called Chor Minar. Now, why is it called Chor Minar and what is it? It is a 13th century monument, and we'll show you more of it and you will also know why. Now 1290 to 1320, as the Ranveer Singh, Deepika, Shahid Kapoor film taught us, Alauddin Khilji ruled Delhi. It was during his rule that he built this tower called Chor Minar. And what was the idea of Chor Minar? As we walk up, you will see it from a little bit closer. This board marks the landmark, but this is, all of it is not left now. The top has gone off, but if you see this minar or this tower, you find many holes in it. Many holes that look like they are planned at a fixed distance. Now, you would normally think that maybe these are holes through which somebody fired arrows or somebody fired bullets. This is the 13th century, no bullets. This is something else. What this means is that the legend is and that these were the holes where Alauddin Khilji every morning had the heads of 225 thieves and criminals who he had got beheaded the previous day. So 225, in the full minar there were 225 holes. So every morning 225 heads of thieves were hanging through these holes on the tips of spears. So that was his idea of teaching his empire what does it mean to be in his bad books or to be a thief. That's how this tower came to be called a Chor Minar. Now, why are we recording this episode of Cut the Clutter here? Because I was thinking, and why did I say it's an unusual episode? Because this episode is about an old story which came back to our life yesterday, and this is called the so-called ISRO spy scandal, or you can call it, I would call it ISRO non-spy scandal, ISRO spy non-scandal, or a great intelligence public opinion scandal over a couple of ISRO scientists who were not involved in any spying. The reason we are doing this now is that it's only just now that Kerala government, left front government, and I am happy that it's left front government that's done it, and as we go along you will figure out why I say so. They have given 1 crore 30 lakhs as compensation to Dr. Nambi Narayanan, who was the prime accused in the so-called ISRO spy case in 1994-1995, and I will tell you the details of the case and also give you some timelines. But he gets his money now. Before this he had got another 50 lakhs that had been ordered by the courts, and before that another 10 lakhs that had been ordered by the National Human Rights Commission. Now, none of that restores him back to him what he lost. He lost decades of his life, he lost his career, he lost his image, the lifelong scientific work. He had a very good chance of rising as the chairman of Indian Space Research Organization at a very young age. In 1992, he is Deputy Director Propulsion in ISRO. He was one of the rising stars of ISRO, somebody who worked with Dr. Kalam and others and who was widely respected by them. He, along with him, another scientist called D. Shashikumaran. Both were dragged into this so-called ISRO spy scam, and their lives were ruined. They were arrested as traitors and they were treated quite rudely in custody, plus they faced enormous public opprobrium, particularly in Kerala press, where they were pronounced Pakistani spies selling away India's most important secrets about the cryogenic engines which were going to power India's GSLV to Pakistanis. And this, the allegation was that they were doing this because they had been honey trapped and then bribed by two Maldivian women, Mariam Rashida and Fauzia Hassan. So those women were arrested also, and this scandal was conjured up. What did it scandal have? This scandal had money, this scandal had national security, this scandal had missile technology, this scandal had sex. So two women painted as modern day Mata Haris, and this scandal had politics, because this is when K. Karunakaran was in power as Congress's chief minister. The left front was out of power and attacking him and accusing him of being complicit with the spies, with Pakistani spies. His own party, the dissidents there, had turned against him. Dissidents were led by A.K. Antony, who ultimately succeeded him in dislodging him and getting Karunakaran to resign because of this scandal, and took his position. And I had earlier said, I am happy that the left front has paid him this compensation, because the left front also, when they came to power next year, they, instead of finding justice for these scientists, they actually asked for a re-investigation. Why? Because CBI already after investigations had said that there was nothing in the case. The case was all bunk up. Now the reason I am talking about it now, one, because just now Nambi Narayanan has got his compensation, but it's also because in some ways, in fact in more ways than one, I got directly, professionally, and also unfortunately personally caught up in this case. So professionally, I will tell you, I got what is called as reporter's luck. I was once traveling on a flight, I think from Delhi to Chennai, and I had an eminent ISRO scientist sitting next to me. Now at that point when I wrote the story, I did not mention his name because everything was too raw and too sensitive, but later I mentioned his name with his consent. Now this scientist, I asked him, I said, sir, aren't you shocked and aren't you disappointed that your colleagues in ISRO, your eminent scientists, got caught up with Pakistani ISI and these funny women and began selling them secrets for money and for sexual favors? So he looked at me, he said, what, tell me some more details. So I told him the ISRO spy case as I had read about it until the reports in the media at that point. This must have been towards the later half of, towards the end of 1994. And I said, sir, but this tells you that these two were leaking out secrets from ISRO. They are being charged under Official Secrets Act. So this scientist was very careful not to say anything, not to take a position, but he just looked me in the eye and he said, remember my young friend, in ISRO we classify nothing. ISRO is an open organization, and if we classify nothing in ISRO, how can there be a secret? And how can anything be covered under Official Secrets Act? So I said, then why is this case going on like this, and why has it caught the entire country's imagination? Looks like Karunakaran will now go as Chief Minister, even looks like Narasimha Rao may go, because one element of the conspiracy had also dragged in Prabhakar Rao, one of Narasimha Rao's sons. He said, why don't you go out and investigate? I believe you used to be an investigative reporter at one time. Now, this was obviously to taunt me or to provoke me. It so happened that after this, I came back to my editor, Arun Puri, and I said, I want to investigate this. Although the whole country at that point thought that this story was true, and what a shame it is for ISRO and for these scientists to be selling away India's most important secrets, literally selling away India's family silver. Now, and don't worry, I will tell you the name of the scientist because I had mentioned it while he was alive with his consent, as I mentioned to you. So, we came back, I came back, and we began checking on this story. Now, this is how this story was made out. The general plot was that 5 conspirators met, or 5+1 conspirators met in a hotel called Madras International Hotel in Chennai, which used to be Madras. So the names of the cities I mentioned now, don't fight with me. these were the names as they existed. So Chennai was Madras, Thiruvananthapuram was Trivandrum, Kochi was Cochin, Bengaluru was Bangalore. These are the cities that will feature in this story. So the story was that 5 conspirators, that is the 2 scientists, Shashi Kumaran and Nambi Narayanan, the 2 Maldivian women, that is Mariam Rashida and Fawzia Hassan, and a man called Chandrasekharan. Chandrasekharan was the Indian agent for Glavkosmos, which is the Russian commercial space company. So these 5 conspirators met in Madras International Hotel along with a DIG of Kerala police called Raman Srivastava, and together they hatched this conspiracy to sell away India's secrets, scientific secrets. Now this is an elaborate story and I will not run through the entire timeline in speech. You can see it on the screen because it will run one by one, but the story got further complicated or more colorful with the addition or embellishment, as it turned out later, of one more fact, that all these people were being paid money by the ISI, which was brought to them from ISI's Colombo based Maldivian agent called Zuhaira, and she was bringing in this cash and she met them in this hotel and give them this money. The rest then followed. The rest of the story then became very colorful after that. It was made out as if these people were selling, they were setting up a company called Cavalier Limited, and I will come to you why that's funny, Cavalier Limited. And there they were going to also employ some of the technologies they had developed as ISRO scientists and exploit that commercially. And all of them were together. They were getting sexual favors from these 2 women, and these 2 women told the police that they were being helped along also by a Kerala police officer who they used to call Brigadier. Now put 2 and 2 together and make it 22. That's how the Intelligence Bureau, which was the main culprit in conjuring up this fiction, this criminal fiction, guilty of. So they added 2 and 2 and made it 22. So if they say they are meeting somebody who's called a brigadier, now this is not an army person. This is Kerala. Kerala police also has rivalries between Malayali police officers, non-Malayali police officers. So there is a police officer who is a favorite of Karunakaran. There is also a rivalry between Karunakaran and AK Antony on the one side, and the left front want Karunakaran down in any case. So they once again invent this idea that it can't be a brigadier, but who is a policeman, police officer who wears the same pips as a brigadier. So it has to be a DIG, and which DIG but the usual suspect, Raman Srivastava. So जाके उसको पकड़ दो. So they caught hold of Raman Srivastava also. So he was made a co-conspirator. By this time, wheels had begun to move and the whole country was angry and furious, and everybody said what a terrible thing has happened. Now I'll quickly tell you a brief timeline. The details you will see on screen. 20th October 1994, Mariam Rashida is supposed to have met K. Chandrasekharan of Glavkosmos to make a deal with him according to the story that Intelligence Bureau put together. Then Intelligence Bureau got Mariam Rashida arrested, and Mariam Rashida is supposed to have signed or recorded a confession on video. 13th October, Nambi Narayanan was arrested. We are talking of 1994, following Mariam Rashida's quote unquote confession. 13th November, Fawzia Hassan was arrested because he was considered the handler of Nambi Narayanan and Shashi Kumaran and the boss of Mariam Rashida. She was arrested from Bangalore, where she had come to get her daughter admitted in a boarding school, and this story gets more murky. 15th of November 94, DIG CB Matthews of Kerala Police, obviously a rival also of Raman Srivastava, he was assigned by the state government to head a special investigating team looking into this ISRO spy case. By that time, the whole country called it the ISRO spy case. And the Malayali press had the most lurid details of it, as if they were inside the bedroom when these scientists were with these two women, as if they had personally seen them collecting cash from them and handing over secrets to them. Somebody even said, I walked past Nambi Narayanan's house, I saw him burning a bonfire of secret documents inside his house. So all that was coming out. 15th November, C.B. Matthews set up this, started heading this SIT, and a series of leaks started. Can you imagine what would have happened if you had today's Commando comic channels at that time? These guys would have been actually executed on live television. 22nd November, Dr. Shashi Kumaran, the second ISRO scientist, was arrested in Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad also has an ISRO center. 21st December, in Bangalore, the IB and Kerala police arrested a Bangalore labor contractor called S.K. Sharma, who is also supposed to have been seen with these people apparently in a club. 2nd December, by this time some stuff had begun to emerge that there was some gadbad in this case, and there were people in the system who still had memories of the Samba spy case. That was another fake case from almost a decade and a half earlier. So they said that, look, in any case, it is not the charter of the Intelligence Bureau to investigate. IB cannot arrest, IB cannot prosecute, IB cannot go to court. IB is supposed to have its impressions and information and share them with prosecution agencies, so bring in the CBI. So 2nd December, the CBI was brought in. Vijay Rama Rao was the head of the CBI at that time. 7th December, IG Raman Srivastav, he was put under suspension, no evidence. 23rd January of 95, now we come to 95, Mariam Rashida and Fawzia Hassan got bail but continued to be in Kannur jail. Why? Because while the court had given them bail, they were poor women from Maldives. There was nobody willing to stand surety or a bail bond for them. So they continued to be in jail for a long time. By March, Karunakaran government was gone because they said that Karunakaran was soft on Raman Srivastav, and it was under his watch that this awful scandal happened. Antony replaced him. Once again, nothing could be found. On May 1 that year, CBI filed a closure report on this case saying there is nothing, and this was filed in the special CBI court in Kochi. In June, however, a new Left and Democratic Front government came in, and the Left Front government, as soon as they came in, normally would have thought, oh, this was a mistake made by their adversaries, the UDF government, so they will now go with the latest court judgment, etc., etc. They said nothing doing because LDF was as prejudiced here as other factions of the Congress party, Antony faction of the Congress party. So they actually ordered a reinvestigation of the case. So you had a funny situation here where state government ordered reinvestigation of a case which CBI had applied for closure on, saying that there is nothing in the case. This Left Front Kerala government also withdrew the state government's consent to the CBI to investigate this case. Now, this went to the High Court. This story is, if you were not a victim in this story, as Nambi Narayanan and Shashi Kumaran and these two Maldivian women and this DIG Srivastav and others were, you would think it's a funny story. This is funnier than any plot of Keystone Cops. So, the High Court then said, the High Court summoned the Intelligence Bureau, must be a rare occasion when IB was summoned, and the CBI. And the IB was also told to submit whatever evidence it had. Now, IB never does it. IB never submits any evidence in court. IB rarely signs a report also. Nevertheless, IB submitted its evidence, as the court said, in sealed cover. So don't blame Justice Gogoi now for having invented the doctrine of the sealed cover. Kerala High Court also did it. with one difference. While Supreme Court so far has not opened any sealed cover, Kerala High Court opened that sealed cover, read out all the evidence that the IB had. In fact, even played the video confessions of the two Maldivian women. Can you imagine a trial like this going on in a high court in Kerala in 95-96? When that happened, once again I told you it's funnier than Keystone Cops, except there were some real victims in this one. The lawyer representing the CBI and IB was the same guy. He's KTS Tulsi, later Congress Party's Member of Parliament for Rajya Sabha. He was a government lawyer then. He was representing both the contending side as the Sarkari Vakil, and he had to walk very sensitive ground, because how could he run down one agency and support the other? So he actually found a diplomatic way of putting it across, saying, oh, what IB was coming across with, IB was saying stuff based on its impressions and its information, but not on evidence. What CBI had, on the other hand, was evidence, and that is what should be followed. Now, High Court did not allow it. High Court said no, go ahead with reinvestigation. January 13, 1996, CBI went to Supreme Court of India against the High Court of Kerala, rejecting its own investigation in the ISRO spy case and ordering Kerala police to investigate it. Nambi Narayanan challenged it before a division bench of the Kerala High Court. He lost because the mood in Kerala at that point was really nasty. Everybody in popular view had presumed that these people were Pakistani spies. It's a bit similar to what's happening with that, and let me dare to say so, that poor Riya Chakravarti in the Sushant Singh Rajput case, because a lot of people just think that she is guilty and she's a gold digger and she's a black magician, etc., without a shred of evidence, with this much evidence. So CBI went to Supreme Court, and then it took forever, as it does in India. It went on and on and on. It took until 1998 for Supreme Court to quash this High Court order. Supreme Court said they were doing it because this went against the spirit of good governance. 13th of April 1998, Mariam Rashida was released from prison. 2001, because Nambi Narayanan and Shashi Kumaran both decided to fight back to have their honor restored. So 2001, National Human Rights Commission ordered a 10 lakh compensation to Nambi Narayanan. What did the Kerala government do? They didn't even pay that 10 lakhs. They went into High Court and took a stay on that NHRC order. But because Nambi Narayanan fought on, he's a national hero and he's now been acknowledged and honored as such. Later, they gave him that money and another 50 lakhs and now another crore and 30 lakhs. Now, how did the story unravel? So, when we began to work on it, and it's very easy for me to say that I am the only one who gets the credit for it, but there were other smart people working with me, without whom I would not have been able to put this story together. And these were our Kochi correspondent, Jacob George, India Today's Kochi correspondent, then Jacob George, India Today's Trivandrum correspondent, M. Radhakrishnan, and India Today's Bangalore correspondent, Sarita Rai, whose byline you now see often also on the print.in. She now works for Bloomberg. So, all of us worked together on this story and we found many funny things there. For example, the date on which these 5+1 are supposed to have met in that Madras International Hotel, those dates were 24th to 26th of January 1994. On those days, nobody by that name had checked into the hotel. Now, somebody called Shashi Kumar had checked into the hotel, but that turned out to be another Shashi Kumar. So much as I'd like to say that I cracked this story or the scandal behind the story all by myself, that wasn't the case. This was a complex story, needed many talented people to work on it. So working with me on this story were Jacob George and M.G. Radhakrishnan, India Today's then Kochi, Cochin and Trivandrum correspondents respectively, and Sarita Rai, then our correspondent in Bangalore. In fact, you can now see her byline quite often on the print.in with Bloomberg stories. She's a brilliant reporter, works at Bloomberg now. So all four of us worked on this story and we put it together. So in the January 31, 1995 issue of India Today, we came out with this story headlined The Great Espionage Mess, where we said, and I'm sharing that story with you, which I started by saying that, look, if somebody was the chief of the ISI, he'll be so thrilled today that somebody has destroyed India's GSLV program, somebody has destroyed India's best scientists, somebody has caused a war between India's intelligence agencies, and somebody has destroyed the credibility of the entire Indian security system, and this without anybody in the ISI having to do anything about it, because it is the Indians themselves who've done it for him. So you can see that story, and as it turned out, this entire story was fake. So the dates on which these six are supposed to have met in Chennai or in Madras in that hotel, 24th to 26th of January 1994, it turned out that the DIG Raman Srivastav not only wasn't there, but he was actually in Trivandrum supervising the Republic Day rehearsals. 26th January, as you know, is Republic Day, and there was sufficient evidence and pictures of his being there. Shashi Kumaran, they found somebody like that with a similar name having checked into that hotel on those 3 days, but when they went back and checked, they actually found a man by that name who had checked in there, but it wasn't the same Shashi Kumaran. Then Chandrasekharan, they did find 3 people with the name Shekhar, not me, having checked into that hotel in those 3 days. And when they went back and checked, they found all 3 in different places, and none of them was the Chandrasekharan they were after. So DIG wasn't there, and then they got data from Interpol which said that Zuhaira, the so-called Maldivian spy based in Colombo, had never travelled to India during that period. So the whole story completely fell out of a hole, a big hole. Although the IB officers that time, they had got so committed to it, and Kerala police had got so committed to it that they fought on, and then even the Kerala government, even after the Supreme Court gave this reprieve and NHRC gave this compensation, even then Kerala government went to court, took a stay. That stay was vacated by, believe it or not, 10 years. So at the end of all this, you can say who was guilty. A lot of policemen were guilty. They should have been punished. They haven't been punished. Taxpayer paying a compensation is a good thing, but that is not good enough to serve the ends of justice. Second, it is the IB, senior IB people who conjured up this completely fictional, false and fake story and did a lot of damage to India, because the story was that some mysterious aircraft without markings from something called Ural Aviation were coming into Trivandrum, and they were bringing in suitcases full of cash, and our fellows, our scientists were giving them suitcases full of documents. The fact is that for the longest time, it is a well-known secret that India and Soviet Union and now Russia have had a lot of secret technological dealings. And these were days when missile technologies had sanctions and bans, and India was working in a sanctioned environment. So by letting this out, India broke its own operation. Then it said, I told you I'll come back to Cavalier. It said that they were going to set up a company called Cavalier. It wasn't that. In one of their drunken gupshup sessions, one of the scientists had said, what will we do after we retire? So somebody said that, look, this material we have developed for the exhausts of these rockets, because exhausts of rockets see flames going out at very extremely high temperatures. So you need specialized materials to survive those temperatures. So one of them said that, look, we've developed this wonderful technology. I know how to do it, I will do it, and we will get a patent for it, and this will be India's answer to DuPont's global monopoly, something called Kevlar. Kevlar is something which also goes into bulletproof vests, bulletproof helmets. It also goes into the exhausts of jet aircraft, etc., etc., etc. So they were finding an Indian rival for Kevlar, not setting up a company called Cavalier. So it also tells you that a lot of the people in the police and the IB were illiterate. So you should check out how they got through their IPS. But most of all, it's an indictment of two other institutions. It's an indictment of the news media, which took this whole story because it looked too sexy to be checked out. And in fact, that is when I learned the lesson that no matter what happens as a journalist, never switch off your bullshit detector. And also, when a story sounds too good to be true, too bad to be true, maybe it is too good to be true. Maybe it isn't true. So check it out. If it looks so good, so bad, if it doesn't stand the test of reasonableness, this would not have happened in my case, but for that scientist on the plane, ISRO scientist, just gently telling me that we classified nothing, and if you are doubtful, why don't you find out you used to be an investigative reporter. So it forced us back to become investigative reporters again. So now let me conclude this story with yet another story, which I would call the cherry on the cake. Now this was 15th of January. This is the Army Day, and this is when the Army Chief has a big reception on the lawns, on the gardens of his house in Delhi. So editors are invited also, some defense reporters are. So I was among the invitees. I was there, and I saw the same distinguished ISRO scientist who had become even more famous now walk up to me and poke me on this side of my chest. This is where your heart is located. And then he said, Shekhar ji, what you did with that story on ISRO, you have applied balm on our wounded hearts. Now that scientist was Dr. APJ Kalam. So for me, that was my vindication then. It is just so sad that while I could have claimed it then because the case was over, it has taken Nambi Narayanan so many years, a decade and a half, to get some semblance of justice, and yet nobody can give him his life back. That's the reason I thought I'll bring you today to this Chor Minar, because in the 21st century, you cannot apply the justice system of 13th century. Give a thief a bad name, behead him, and hang his head on a tower outside your city. And just in case you are wondering why I had said that we got caught up professionally as well as personally in this case, that is because a whole bunch of Kerala police officers who had been proven wrong and actually complicit in cooking up this case, they filed several nasty criminal defamation cases against us in courts in Trivandrum and Cochin. So it did take several trips to those courts, and every trip to those courts was a media event with lots of local media coming out, because right now it was still too early to accept the fact that this case was a complete fake. But we were also lucky to have good judges and also a good young lawyer, Sushil Salwan, who then used to represent India Today magazine.